All right, we're pleased to be welcomed in by former UCF linebacker. He played started 2000 and played up into the '03 season, and is none other than Antoine Poe. Antoine, welcome to the Sons of UCF, man. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
We're excited to talk to you. You had a really interesting career, and you were at UCF at a really interesting time. But before we get into some of that, let's start at the very beginning. So you came to UCF out of Kathleen High School in Lakeland. What made you choose UCF? How did you end up becoming a Knight?
Well, what made me choose UCF? I've been asked that question a lot. It was actually the relationship that I ended up developing with Coach Alan Gooch. He actually became one of the determining factors of why I chose UCF over like the numerous schools that were coming after me. I felt like he was genuine, and I didn't feel like it because I was a kid who just wanted to play football. And he never came to me like I was some superstar because me personally, I didn't think I was a superstar. I just felt like I was a kid who just liked playing football and just wanted to hit somebody. And his approach to me was very genuine. So that kind of won me over, and being that it was only 45 minutes away from Lakeland, that was another determining factor because I was actually terrified of getting on planes. So I only took my visit to UCF because I literally had anxiety of getting on the plane.
Oh, wow.
Only to get on the plane for my first game when we went to play Georgia Tech back in 2000.
Wow, that's crazy.
So that was kind of funny.
What other schools were recruiting you back then?
Indiana. I actually called Indiana and canceled my official visit because I did not want to get on the plane. Florida State was trying to get me to come up there, and I was like, am I going to have to fly? And they were going to fly me in. I didn't want to get on the plane. So my auntie drove me over to UCF. I called UCF and told them I canceled my visit with Indiana, and I was going to come there. And that was the only visit I took out of all the schools in the country because I had Michigan, Miami's, Florida State. I had pretty much every school in the country was coming after me because my grandmother's phone rang off the hook while I was in high school. It drove her nuts.
So I got to ask, have you gotten past your plane phobia? Are you able to fly to these days, or are you still four wheels on the ground?
Well, man, the plane phobia actually, I I have gotten past that as I've gotten older because I think that was an unfamiliar thing for me back then. So I had never been on the plane. I didn't understand what would happen if I got on there. So and I think that's what created the anxiety of the unknown. So I didn't want to. I wasn't even interested in being on any planes. But after I got on my first plane ride when we flew to Georgia Tech, I remember my palms sweating, my armpits were sweaty, and it was only a 30-minute flight. But I was terrified. But but it was just because I didn't understand what was going on. But then after that, like as the years grew past, I kind of overcame that anxiety because I would go to the UCF Health Center to get sleeping pills just to try to sleep on the plane. And that one worked, so I started taking NyQuil, and that helped out a lot.
Well, I guess that worked out well for UCF's favor. So I guess that was a good thing for Knight fans. But so you had a bit of a setback before you came to UCF. Obviously, you high school, you were a big time player, and you had a knee injury in your senior year of high school. How did that impact kind of your recruiting experience, your signing experience, and kind of your first start on campus at UCF?
Well, how that impacted me is as far as like the injuries. I guess you could say like because I was always a pretty determined kid. I never looked at my injuries as something that was going to like keep me down because I was so determined. But the recruiting process, I think some schools did kind of start to lighten up because with an ACL injury at the time, like they were still kind of like doing newer technologies. Like I had to get my knee scope, which they hadn't been doing. Like I was kind of like one of the first kids to kind of go through that type of thing because they were usually cutting people's knees wide open and then their career would be over. So they made little small incisions in my knee. So some schools did they would still recruit me, but I can tell in the tones it was some things did kind of change. And UCF remained consistent because Coach Alan Goose actually was with me on my second knee surgery at the hospital when it got infected. And I think that really like made me that kind of confirmed that this is where I'm going. Like I was so hard at UCF.
Yeah, you must have a pretty nice recovery because your freshman year you played in all 11 games, and you even won Defensive Rookie of the Year award, right? So
Yes, I
how was
did.
that?
I did. Well,
How
what
comfortable
happened
were you
after
back
that?
on the field?
Well, I guess what helped me become comfortable getting back on the field back then is because I guess the determination. And one of my high school teammates, he was 2 years ahead of me, Freddie Mitchell. His father was a like kind of a distance runner, so he would come pick me up during that time where like because I was a gray shirt, and so I came into UCF. I signed with the class of '99, but I came in with the class of 2000, so it was kind of like right in the middle of both of those things. So when that happened, that time that I spent at home, I pretty much trained that entire year, like with him, and he would come get me at 4 o'clock in the morning. And some mornings I didn't want to get up, but I wanted to be ready for when I got to UCF campus. So January 2000, by the time I got there and they sent us through the mat drills and everything, they were like, "Have you done this before?" I was like, "No." And they was like, "Dude, you're in shape." I was like, "I just been training while I was at home." And because I had nothing to do but work at Publix and go work out. And that's what I did. So when I came in my freshman year, I was like one of the only freshmen to play, which is how I ended up getting the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And it was just a pretty exciting time for me during that time, even though the injuries were kind of things that slowed me down. And
All right. But that 2000 season, I mean, we had the big win against Alabama. What do you remember about that game?
what I remember is I remember wishing I could have played more because I actually had a shoulder injury, so I played sparingly on kickoff. And I remember they shot my arm up right before the game, my shoulder, because I had an AC sprain in my AC joint. And I wanted to play so bad, but I didn't want to risk like kind of like further injuring it to where I won't be able to play for the rest of my career. So I kind of ran down on kickoff a few times, and when Javier Borlegi kicked that field goal, I just remember the crowd going crazy. The team, like I remember we went nuts after that game. Like I remember everybody just diving and jumping on top of each other, and that was a pretty fun time.
Some people don't remember this, Antoine, but back in those days, the defensive coordinator was actually Gene Chizik, who obviously went on to win a national championship as Auburn's head coach. What was it like to play for him as a defensive coordinator back then?
Well, playing for Gene was one of those coaches that can get in your head. Like he can make you believe you can knock down the wall and you'll go down there and do it, which is why we were ranked in the top 25 because he had us believing that we could really do all the things that he was putting in front of us. I remember his saying was anyone, anytime, anywhere, and that was our motto. And so we just basically took on his personality because he was kind of like that guy that just kind of came in with the confidence, and we didn't really run a complicated defense. So he made sure he tailored it to what we could do and made sure we were playing fast. So, and that's what we went out and did. Like everybody bought into it. Like even after Chizik left, like a lot of the players wanted Chizik to become the head coach, but they let that one slip away. Huh? I don't know how, but.
Well, you mentioned Chizik, obviously. So he was kind of known for his offensive mind. UCF had a wide open offense back then, and that got a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
But inherently, I think some people always just assumed that meant the defense was kind of like the weak link, or the offense was always kind of doing their thing, and the defense didn't get as much publicity. As a defensive player, as a unit, did that put a chip on your shoulder at all? Kind of all the talk the offense always got, and knowing how hard you guys were working on the defense.
Well, as a defensive player, most of us we don't even really think about like the accolades like that. We just kind of like the guys that go out and do the dirty work. Like it's like, man, you can keep your clipping. I'm coming out here the ball because I want the NFL scouts to see me. I don't necessarily need your articles. So we didn't really have any kind of like animosity towards like the offense getting all the praise because it was almost kind of like an expected thing. You expected the offense to get the praise because that was what offense do, put up the points, and Chizik put up a lot of points.
You started the 2001 season pretty well, but then you had a hamstring injury, right?
Right, yeah. I
in 2002, you
missed about 7 games.
Yeah, in 2002, you had an ankle.
Was that 2002? That was that was me being reckless. That wasn't even a football injury.
What happened?
That was me playing around. It's a crazy story because like most people don't know it at all. Because like, I was a very adventurous kid, kind of hadn't matured yet. At that point, I was playing around. I remember I had just got out of my self-defense class. It was during the summer, and I had just got out, and then I believe the quarterback called for. I think Snyder wanted to do a pass scale that day, so we were going to go do a pass scale down over behind the old Wayne bench. And I remember Asante Samuel and Stanford Rule were throwing a football together. And I come riding up on my bike with my cleats on. I come riding down on the grass, and we call Asante Zunt. I was like, Zunt, throw me the ball. And then he's like, no, man, I'm not throwing the ball. I said, throw me the ball, man. So he threw it, and I tried to catch it while I was on the bike. And the bike went one way, and my body went another, but my foot stayed in place, and it ended up turning like my foot and dislocated my foot. Like then I remember Doug Gabriel, when he saw it, he screamed. He was like, oh! Like he just made a crazy noise. Like he just turned his head like, oh my gosh, your foot! And then I remember riding on the ambulance with Mary V. And she sat with me through them pulling my because I remember like I was awake when they were pulling my foot back in place, and then I had to get the surgery on that. So I ended up missing my true junior year, going to my true junior year. Then I rehab from that and came back around following season.
Yeah, you had a big role in the 2003 team, and the team kind of struggled. You had a pretty good season, right? You had a few big games in there. How many tackles did you have that year? I think like 100 tackles or something, right?
I had 111. I know me, Atari, and Peter Sands was like 111, 112, and 113. We were all like one tackle apart from each other.
Yeah, you had 111.
I had like 111. I believe like 2 interceptions. I can't.
A few sacks. I think in the FAU game you had a few sacks.
2 sacks, and then one game I had about 16 tackles. I believe it was. Or 10. No, it might have been. I can't remember all the stats right now. I don't even keep up with that stuff.
Coming back from all those injuries, man, that had to be pretty satisfying, huh?
Yeah, I was determined. I was ready. I was just ready because you go your freshman year, you play, and then you get a nick going into your sophomore year. Then you come out your true junior year, end up getting make a bonehead decision, and then you're not playing for that season, so you redshirt. And then I came out my redshirt junior year and balled out, but then ended up getting temporarily paralyzed in the last game of the season, and that ended my career.
Well, by the way, I think I also took that self-defense class in the summer. It wasn't as easy as it looked, actually. But so you mentioned, obviously, that 03 season. Obviously, the team struggled a little bit. And ultimately, with a few games left in the season, Coach Chizik was dismissed. Take us back to that time. How were you guys informed of that? Like, how did you find out that Coach Cruz was let go? And what was the kind of the overall, the feeling from the team at that point?
Well, the overall that season as a whole, it was like going downhill almost like weekly, and then I don't know what it was, but it was like almost on a weekly basis. We either had somebody who was either getting kicked off the team or something was being disrupted, or like some type of negative cloud was just over that season. Like, and it just kept going on a downward spiral. And to be honest, it was like a whirlwind. Because I really don't even remember how we were informed about Cruzak. I just remember when Coach Gooch came in and tried to draw everybody together. I remember where he put everybody on the bus, took us all out to the movies to try to kind of keep the team spirits up and like draw us closer together. I remember him doing that and just trying to bring everybody together. And he ended up finishing out. Gooch ended up finishing out, coaching out the rest of the season.
Yeah, there were a lot of suspensions there at the end of the year. How would you describe the morale of the team and like, because there was a lot of promise coming into that season, I remember. And we opened the season in Virginia Tech, right? We looked pretty good. But then by the end, like everything just fell apart, man. How was the locker room like?
The locker room, it was kind of almost like, what next, man? Like who else is going to get it though? And it was almost, it's like unintentional. But it was kind of like, man, what next? It was just like that year of like just bad things happening. and everybody trying to keep it together because like the team morale was kind of starting to kind of get down a little because you do hear the murmurs in the halls where people are like, man, this is messed up. We acting like we a D3 program or something. Like we acting like we don't know how to act. But at the end of the day, when you got back out on the field, you went out there and you produced and you still did what you were supposed to do. But you did have some of the murmurs going on.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier, Antoine, but unfortunately, this wasn't the sort of the biggest turmoil that you personally would face that season. So, can you take us back to November 28th? We're playing at home. Miami of Ohio is in town. It's the second quarter. It's a screen pass, and you go out to make the tackle. Can you kind of walk us through what happened next, or what you kind of remember about what happened next?
Okay, what I remember that play. Well, actually, before that game, my neck had been hurting that entire season because I actually had gotten a car accident back in that early August, and I had never gotten checked out that season. Like that's how like that season was just like crazy. But I got in a car accident before the season even started. It was me, James Cook, Peter Sands, and Ben. I forget Ben's last name, but I was sitting behind Ben. I ended up. Like we were coming down 50, and we were talking about the Virginia Tech game. Like, and I remember James getting excited about the game, and he took his eyes off the wheel, and I yelled out "light!" And as he was driving through a car, we T-boned, and I was on the side that got hit, so my head hit the back of Ben's seat, and we never went and got checked out. Like the police came and did the police report and whatnot, and then we ended up leaving and going on about our way. And I remember they asking us if we were okay. I was like, yeah, I'm good. But I think just out of the shock of it, like we felt fine. And I probably should have went and got checked out. But like a month or two so later, I noticed like my neck was hurt because I remember around the Eastern Michigan game when I think I got an interception that game. But I remember my neck starting to hurt that game, and then every game after that, it seemed like it was starting to get progressively worse. And I'm like, man, something don't feel right in my neck. But I didn't say anything. I just kept playing. So I just thought it was like just from hits, and I thought it was just going to go away. So we go into the Miami, Ohio game against Ben Roethlisberger, and I think in the second quarter, he runs around. He's about to do a screen pass. Josh Stevens was coming from around one side, and I was coming from the other way, and we did kind of like a high-low type hit, but it wasn't nothing crazy about the hit. And I think just like when I hit him, it hit right in the area of where my nerve is on my C3, C4 vertebrae. And that caused my body to shut down. And I remember hitting face down on the ground. And because I was a jokester most of the time, I remember Peter Sands, he was like, Poe, get up, man. And I was like, I can't move. And then he was like, man, quit playing. You play too much. I said, I can't move. And in my mind, I was pushing up off of the ground and trying to get up and stand up, but in reality, my body wasn't moving at all. I'm laying face down, and then I remember like the team like yelling, "Hey, he's hurt!" And then the ambulance came out, and I remember Mary running out onto the field, and they ended up like kind of rolling me over, keeping my body on the straight line, and they unscrewed my face mask, and they cut my uniform off of me, and I remember them putting me on the ambulance, and I was talking to Mary while we were on there, and I was like, am I going to be able to play again? And I remember tears coming in her eyes, and she said she didn't know. And then that's when I started crying. But when we got to the hospital, the doctor said they don't know if I'm going to be able to walk again. And on that same day, like my mother, well, she's my mother-in-law now, but my wife's mom and her dad, that was going to be their first game able to watch me play. And they ended up having to come to the hospital. I think my mom was on the way to the game, and her mom was on the way, and they all had to meet us up at the hospital. And then the doctor said they didn't know if I would be able to walk again. So they started pumping me with steroids and said they'll be able to know if once the swelling goes down around my C3, C4. And I think I stayed in that hospital for about a couple of days. And then once that swelling went down, I was able to kind of like, because I remember laying in the hospital bed. I was like, if I can get my finger to move, I'm going to get my whole body to move. So I'd be laying there, moonlight shining in my face, trying to focus on moving one finger the whole night. And then once I saw it twitch, I was like, oh, that's all I need. And I just kept on working it until my whole arm just started back working again. And then after that, I was up on a walker. They sent me to Lucerne Rehabilitation Center. I was a 22-year-old kid in there with a bunch of 80-year-olds. But I made a bunch of friends, and it was interesting. And I just worked my way back till I regained feeling in my whole body. And it took about a full year before I regained like most of my feeling, but it took about 2 or 3 years before I actually could really feel everything.
Well, that's scary. Thanks for sharing that story with us. So I guess what at that point were you still thinking about playing football? Were you focused on just getting your health better? Where was your mind at that point?
Well, about a month after not even a month, I don't think. It was a couple of weeks. I think Coach O'Leary had just got hired, and he had watched some of my film, and like he met with me in his office, and he like spoke with me about it. Like, I know about you growing up with your grandmother and all this. He's like, I think you're a heck of a player, and if you get back well, I want you back. And that kind of gave me motivation to really go hard and work out. So I ended up the neurologist ended up clearing me to actually play. But our team doctor, Dr. Crummins, I believe it was, he told me no. He was like, with the way you play, son, he was like, you'll be back in here and you might not ever get up again. And I remember like when he told me no, he was like, I can let you get a second opinion. And then I kind of just accepted it at that moment. But I remember I left out of there, and I remember I went and sat in the parking lot, and I called my mom, and I told her I wasn't going to be able to play again. And I broke down. I bawled out crying in the parking lot by myself. I couldn't even drive. I was so because I was so crushed. And I went through kind of like a depression for about a good 2 or 3 months where I wouldn't even come out of my room. I was actually about to just quit school and just give up on it and just go back to Lakeland. And then I remember my wife, she was like, are you kidding me? You got one class left to graduate, you just gonna give it up? And I still was being a little bitter. I remember playing college football on the TV every day. I would just get up and play it. And then one day I was like, man, that's not you. That's not your character. That's not how you act. Like that, like you giving up. No, you never give up. And then that's what kind of like got me back on my game, and I just started back working, and I just kind of accepted the fact that I wouldn't be playing anymore, and that's what kind of drove me into education, so I could start educating kids about not putting all your eggs in one basket, and just having another plan outside of like your sport.
Well, that's a powerful story. I appreciate you sharing that with us. But so post that, you've been a really good and a vocal supporter of UCF. And obviously, the last 2 seasons have been pretty magical, 25-1 overall. As a former player, as an alumni, as a letterman, how cool has it been to see sort of the meteoric rise of UCF over these past 2 seasons?
Man, it has been a big blessing. Like I feel like I'm like a UCF groupie because like how much I support. Like everybody like that knows me is like, oh, that's the UCF guy. Because I wear UCF literally almost every day. Something on me has UCF on it. So watching this program be where it is from where we were when I was playing, I could see it back then, like the potential of like it becoming, I always used to call it the sleeping giant. And I remember I used to tell my wife when we were in school, I was like, we're going to win. I said, this school is going to win a national championship one day. I was like, I can see it already. I said, you can see all these, like just from the culture of like the people at the school and how much they love the school, and you start seeing the fan support, and when you go to these games and you get to feel that energy, I was like, man, this place is gonna be amazing. I was like, I say, don't be surprised if this is a household name like your Alabamas and Ohio States, which is you can see it already. I mean, people are upset about us the way we're doing it, but who cares? How did y'all do it? That's the way you did it. This is the way we're doing it. So
well said. Yeah, how do you think this has changed, the high school perception? So you've got a young son who's in high school. Obviously, he's I'm sure looking to play college ball. How do him and his friends, his teammates, like how has the perception, you think, of UCF changed kind of in the high school ranks over the last couple of years?
You said my son,
Well,
and
yeah,
like their perception of it.
yeah, your son, his teammates. I mean, obviously now UCF has got a lot of attention. Has that
Yeah,
changed kind of the way people think about it from a recruiting standpoint?
I'll say with the way that they thought about it from when I started to the way that they're thinking about it with him is night and day. Because when I chose UCF, everybody in my city was like, "What? You chose UCF over Florida State, man? Are you kidding me?" They thought I was crazy. But now, like my son, to hear my son, like, because I have two of them that play high school ball. One plays for Lake Gibson, the other one plays for Victory. And to hear them even mention like UCF as a top school or a school they would like to attend, that just made my heart jump because I'm like, people weren't that wasn't in the conversation when I was playing. Only thing you know about UCF was Dante Culpepper back when I was there.
So when you go back to campus now and you see the stadium and all the facilities we have now, how jealous are you about, all the stuff that you had when we were there? We had nothing, right?
Well, yeah, we literally had nothing. Like I was the last group in the old Wayne bench before they cleared out. They and before they moved us out over to near the stadium, and I was the first group to be a part of the new Wayne bench. And then to look at like how it's developed and how it's grown, like and to see that is like crazy because I remember the plans that they were showing us when I was in high school of what they wanted to do with the vision. And then to see that come into fruition, it was kind of like, it might not have happened while I was there, but I was one of the building blocks to help get it here. Because I remember practicing on the field where they practice now. I was one of the first group to practice on that field. But the stadium wasn't there yet. The stadium came, two years after I finished? But I was there for that Texas game to watch it and to come out on the field and be introduced. So, like, I just remember, like, where we were and where we are now, and it's just an amazing feeling.
So, what have you been up to since your football days? How can Knight fans kind of keep tabs on you, support you? Where can they follow you at? Give us kind of an update on what you've been up to since you last left UCF.
Well, what I've been up to since I last left UCF, I actually got into education. I remember I worked a couple of call centers after I was doing some work for Coach O'Leary, I was working out with the equipment managers, and then after that I went and found a job over at Target and worked overnight doing that, and then I started working the call center. I worked there for about a couple of months, and then I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, and I couldn't stick with it. So then I ended up I went into a school which was Community Education Partners back then. And I asked what application I signed, and that started my career path to becoming a teacher. So now I'm a PE teacher. I've been working in education since 2006 all the way up until now. I teach up here in Jacksonville, and I've been enjoying like touching these kids' lives and like trying to, pour into them all the life lessons that I've learned along the way. So that's been my thing. Social media, I don't really be on there except for Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Antoine Poe 1. That's about the only social media account that I have. I really don't like dealing with technology like that. I like personally, because I like to personally, like, I would rather talk on the phone with you or talk to you face to face than to send you a message, because words can be interpreted so many ways.
Well, we're appreciative you like to talk on the phone because that really helps out the show here. So, all right, we're going to let you off the hook here, but we got 10 random questions for you. So we end every interview with sort of 10 random questions. It could be sports, could be music, could be movies. You never know what you're going to get. So are you ready for these 10 hard-hitting questions?
Man, come with it. Come on, right. Let's get it.
Who was the best athlete you played with at UCF?
The best athlete, man.
I told you they were hard.
The best athlete. My most favorite player, and I never told him this, was D. Brown. I thought he was one of the most underrated players on UCF football. He played baseball, but I thought he would have been like if they gave him a chance to run the ball more. That was one guy I did not like hitting.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, D. Brown. D. Brown was probably one of the best athletes to me, and Mike Sims Walker.
Who's the greatest linebacker of all time?
Of all time, me? I'm not going to put anybody else above me. I'm the greatest linebacker of all time. After nobody above me. After me, for UCF?
No, not for UCF. Just any football linebacker in the history of football.
Ray Lewis. We come from the same cloth, come from the same high school, same city. They always said that's who I was supposed to be the next Ray Lewis, but I'm like, I'm not the next Ray Lewis. I'm the Antoine Poe.
Yeah, Ray Lewis is definitely one of the top ones. I would have said LT, but that's because I'm a Giants
fan. Yeah, I like Ray Lewis. I kept his posters on my wall in college. He was my motivation because I was like, I'm going to be better than him.
How many UCF games do you attend every year? I know I saw you at one of the games. I saw a picture of you at the game last year.
Yeah, man, we're there quite often. This season we're gonna be there for every game because we're season ticket holders this year. My wife and I, we were season ticket holders after we finished college, but then we moved to Jacksonville and we started a family and we kind of like slowed down and we came sparingly to games, and now we kind of just getting back into the group. Like over the last 2 years, we started going to a lot more games. And then this year we decided we were going to get the whole family season tickets.
Nice. Where are your seats?
Section 221? I can't remember. I have to check my email.
All right, so I can tell just by the time we spent together that you're probably a really super nice guy, and so I'm sure that you like everybody, but have you ever felt bad after hitting a quarterback?
No.
Who's the
have you even get up and go? I don't even waste no time. I just knock them down and get up and walk off.
Do you remember?
Hey, man, you just stay down.
Do you have a recollection of the quarterback that you hit the hardest, or the sort of the best hit that you've ever laid on a quarterback?
The best hit that I've ever laid on the quarterback. Trying to think of what quarterback did I hit. I can't remember. I think it might have been the FAU quarterback. I don't remember who he was at the time. I think I had to either be.
Was that Rusty Smith back then, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think I might have put a good lick on him. I remember stacking him.
Yeah, you were a beast at that FAU game. You were a beast that game.
Yeah, man, I just went out there and gave it everything I had because I just like to compete. That's all that was. I just was always very competitive. I like a challenge.
Okay, so back in our time, if you remember, Nitro actually had a girlfriend named Glycerin. Do you remember her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Glycerin.
Okay, was she hot or not?
Glycerin was hot.
That's what I said. I don't thought I was crazy when I was asked that question.
I still think you're crazy. Yeah.
Glycerin was hot, man. she had to be. That's Nitro's girlfriend.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to her. We haven't seen her.
I don't know. They need to bring her back. That would be fun to bring it back. That's history right there.
Yeah.
That would be great.
All right, so you're from Lakeland, which is the home of Publix. So this is a true-false question. True or false, the chicken tender sub is the best sub at Publix?
Especially when you get the Jaguar sub here in Jacksonville with the chicken tenders.
Okay.
It's like the best thing to have. Because Publix was my first job. Well, that's what almost everybody living in Lakeland. That's usually your first job is Publix. But yeah, man, those chicken tender subs are the bomb.
Yeah, so I moved out of Florida. I miss a good chicken tender sub for real.
Hey, man, I think they actually have a special that's going to be going on. I think I got an email about them having a special this week.
All right, well, we've had
And I
this
figured out what section. I'm going to be sitting in section 223
223
for the season ticket.
Okay. I don't know if that's part of the, like, they're expanding the cabanas. I don't know if that's part of it now, or it might just be just outside of the cabana.
Oh, okay.
I'm in 228, so we'll figure it out. We'll meet up playing it. Okay, we've had this debate. Yeah, for sure. We've had this debate on the show. Now we're talking about food. For Thanksgiving, I like to mix up all my food together: the turkey, the gravy, and mix it all up in one bite. Adam likes to keep things separate. He only eats the turkey separate, and then he'll take a bite of the potatoes. How do you do it?
Right. I do it the same. I keep mine separate, and if I'm missing one thing, I will not eat the rest of the plate because I have to have everything. I have to have everything that I like. I keep it separate, and I take a bite of each one. Like, I mix them when they get in my mouth, and then once one of them is gone, I have to have that thing that was there. I don't know why I'm like that. It's weird, but
you're right on, man. You're good. You're actually Mike's the weird one. We're fine. Like, it's not us, man. He's got some problems. That's for sure. All right, last one for me. If you could have any superhero power, what superhero power would you want to have?
Any superhero power? Well, not strength. So I'd say the mind read.
Oh, wow. That's a good one. So last week, your former teammate, Vic Penn, came on. He said he wanted to be invisible.
Vic Penn wanted to be invisible.
He wanted to be invisible.
You might want to be invisible. Well, he's a quarterback. He don't want to get sacked. Mine would be able to. Mine would probably be to read your mind.
That is a good one. Sometimes I don't want to know what people are thinking about me, though. So
I wouldn't be. I think mine would be more so for entertainment purposes. I wouldn't let you know that I read it. I'd probably be laughing at you in your thoughts. I just wouldn't say anything.
Yeah. I got one more. I don't know if you're like me and Adam. We used to go to a bunch of keg parties when we were there around the same time. So which apartment complex had the best ones? Was it Knights Crossing, Jefferson Commons, University Club, or something else?
I'll say Knights Crossing.
Nice.
Because that's where a lot of stuff went down over there, Knights Crossing.
Yep, that was us, Phase 3.
Phase 3.
I remember all those parties.
That's what
we probably saw you out at a few of those.
Probably more than a few.
But I mean, I really like, to be honest, I really wasn't a big partier, but when I did go party, I partied hard and I had fun. But I didn't. That wasn't part of my makeup. I go party like 2 weeks in a row, and I would go missing for like 6 or 7 months.
Was it hard as an athlete to sort of be in some of those social settings where people always like trying to talk to you about stuff, or people always trying to like maybe fight you or yell at you or whatever? Was that hard?
Mm-hmm. No, well, not really for me, because I never really let people know that I played football, because I just kind of wanted to be normal. And like, if they did kind of have a thought of like, is that, I would never say anything. I just usually kind of try to stay low key, even though most people still knew who I was. But I was always kind of trying to stay off by myself, because I enjoyed the attention to a certain point, but like when you get it night in, night out, it gets old.
Well, what doesn't get old is your passion for UCF, Antoine, and we. If you follow him on Twitter, you see pictures of him all the time. He's always posting UCF. You had a couple of car videos every day with a new UCF hat or UCF windbreaker on. So you definitely, you said you're a groupie, and that's a good thing, man. So we appreciate you for what you did for the program and the building blocks, and then how you continue to support the program. And look, we appreciate you coming on and telling your story. I know some of the injuries and some of the things you went through were pretty hard, man. But it's inspirational to kind of see how you fought through that stuff and where you are today. So we appreciate you coming on, and we're glad that you're a loyal Knight. So thanks for joining the show tonight.
All right, man. I really appreciate you guys having me, man. Thank you.